Hi everyone. Today is Monday evening, and you might have figured I have not posted any homework for Monday. So hopefully you guys got a break or got a chance to catch up. Either ways, I struggle a little bit, so I figured I shouldn't just post something I was not very happy with. So here I am. I have the engine drawn, and hopefully you have it, or if you don't, then maybe you can do it in two parts where you start with the engine and then just test out what the washes look like. So the focus today is on just understanding the washes. And so I'm going to start off with a flat wash, which is essentially just as it sounds, pretty flat. I have as equipment slightly different things than what you have, but it's ink bottle, almost has the same dilution of ink that you had used in your pen brush, and then I have some clean water. I figured this would be easy also to demo these brushes. We'll talk about them in the next class maybe. These are also travel brushes, very inexpensive. Also good alternative if you're working at home, where you can have these small bottles and jars, and makes it easy. The travel brushes are truly travel brushes. So hopefully you're curious about these, and we can talk about whether it's worth buying them or not. Anyway, I'm going to start off with a flat wash. I'm going to just use it as an ink wash. I have a big brush here. So essentially, I'm going to just do a flat wash on the bottom. I typically start at the top, but in this case, I want to do a slightly different wash at the top. So I'm just going to do a flat wash, which is, as I said, as it sounds, pretty flat and maybe boring, but it is what it is. It's just a simple layering of ink or watercolor. In this case, it's ink onto a piece of your art and lay down flat, and that's it. So that's a flat wash. So try not to overdo it. You saw clean strokes, pretty easy to accomplish. I'm going to clean out the brush and then move on to demoing a wet in wet wash. And this is a very classic watercolor wash, so it's just nice to know what it is. Um, Within this wet in wet wash, I'm going to show two things. I'm going to start off with a flat wash and then show a graded wash as well, because that's something we talked about, and you can see how that works with, let's say, the sky. So for a wet and wet wash, various different ways to do this, but one typically starts off by wetting the paper with water. Um, so, but this technique applies even if the paper is wet with some pigment as well. And you may not be able to see this, but I'm essentially applying water to the sky for the most part, not overdoing it. And here you can go around a little bit. Don't have to. It's not designed to be. Everything's not designed to be perfect. So I'm just going around in all the different areas where I haven't got the other wash yet. So it's just is now, relatively wet. So now I'm going to do the same thing as I did before. I'm going to get ink and do a wet in wet wash. So the paper is wet, my brush is wet, so it's a wet in wet wash. That's as simple as that. Hopefully that makes sense. What you will notice immediately is the paper starts to grade itself, as in the water starts to essentially spread the ink out without you having to do a whole lot of stuff. And in classic watercolor, they will lay this paper at an angle, so the water flows down and gives a nice natural sort of a flow for the water. And I leave a few whites here and there so it kind of looks like a natural sky. While it's wet, I am going to demo for you a graded wash. So this is kind of a wet in wet flat wash, and then to grade it, you essentially add more pigment at top. In this case, I'm just going to use blue just so it's obvious in the video what I'm doing, but I could have used a darker gray, and I'll actually use that as well. I'll show a darker gray here. So this time I am going to put the paper at an angle slightly, hold it at an angle, so that you can see it. And if the paper is wet enough, you'll see how the color just disperses on its own. I had to do a whole lot. It's doing its thing on its own. So the less we do with the brush, the better it is in these situations, and it'll, if it's wet enough, it will flow down. And if it's not, you can slightly wet the brush again. And this is the beauty of watercolor, where it spreads on its own. As you can see, it's kind of giving that cloud-like feel to it. And I'll attempt to kind of give it a little bit more. There you see it. It's kind of coming down. I wouldn't overdo this too much, so it starts to look unnatural. But this is the beauty of watercolor, where it starts to spread itself using the water as its a mechanism. This is where you need to have a little bit practice, a good handle on the amount of pigment to water ratio, and the only way to get it right is to do it multiple times. So don't fret if this is doesn't come out perfect, looks ugly, whatever you think it is, it's fine. This is a process. It takes a lot of time to master this. While I have this, I'm going to just show how far you can go with a graded wash. I have this ink brush pen that has a preloaded ink in it. I'm going to try and see if I can even accentuate the top. This may not work, but we'll see. But I think it might. And there you can see it. I don't have to do a whole lot, and it's starting to kind of mix in itself. I'm going to leave it as is. The less you mess, the better it is. Maybe for fun, since we are doing this as a demo and we have a lot of forgiveness for our stuff, I'm going to maybe add kind of a streak of red, and just diluting some red in here that you may not be able to see on a palette. And I am going to go bold and just kind of push it in, and just kind of let it play itself out. I might have overdone it, but yeah, this is makes it interesting. Okay, so I'm gonna lay it down flat. I think hopefully you get the idea. I'll clean it up a little bit here. And we'll move on to the engine real quick in terms of what I'm going to try to accomplish. In our next session, we're going to do a fairly complex project. So hopefully this helps. We're going to do exactly what we did to that cardboard box. I'm going to look at the photograph, and it's a black and white photograph. If you look at the homework sheet, I'm going to leave some of the whites to be white, because as you know, we can't really paint them, and there is no white in watercolor for the most part. And I am going to go around just like this is any other box, and just kind of fill in real quick the areas that I'm not leaving white with the first. So everything in this except what I intend to leave white is going to be covered with this first light tone. I see a little bit of white in that back windows there, so I'm going to leave it there. And then there is some white in these designs, so I'm going to try and do it there. I'm going quick for the sake of the video, so you guys don't have to watch this for too long with me babbling around. But just to give you an idea how quickly you can actually move with this. For the most part, I don't see a whole lot of white except on that wheel, end of the wheel, so definitely have to watch out for that. Edges of the wheel. Ooh, that was the sky. Okay, I'll mess around with that later. All right. And then even on the white here, on this whistle, I see there is a shadow area. So I'm going to just leave a tiny bit of white at the top. Or that thing, but that's okay. That's part of the shadow now. we'll work with it. And then on this other chimney, I'm just going to do this. That's it, and leave it. And then hopefully this dries quickly. So I can layer on another tone. I'll do this here underneath here, which I know has dried. This ink is highly dilute, so I may have to use a little bit of the dark ink pen. We'll talk about getting a little darker tone in our next class, but hopefully you can see how this is building up. So next I'm going to do the shadow of this thing as best as I can. And then we'll try to darken this. So this is essentially the third tone. See some dark there. See some dark in between. And so I think you get the idea where we're trying to build the shades into the darker and darker tones. Underneath the carriage is like super dark that I don't think this ink can actually get that dark, but okay, again, for in the interest of time, I'm going to go a little dark, and we'll talk about how to darken this. So you can play around with adding a little bit more ink to your ink brush, or creating another ink brush with let's say 3 or 4 drops of ink to the water ratio. I think the first time we used two drops. So just to demo this, I'm going to show how dark this can go in terms of the final tone. So this is something you could accomplish with hatching, or even just really starting to get a dark tone underneath the carriage. Brushing through, so it's bleeding a little bit, but it's fine. I think the whole idea is to kind of demo this. So I think the whole point of this exercise shows that the cardboard exercise that we did in our previous exercise can essentially apply to any object that you're painting, that makes it then appear three-dimensional. So that's really the learning from this shading exercise that I wanted to demo. And hopefully you can try this out and enjoy the process. We'll be doing, as I said, a full complex project in our next class, and just trying this out will help up front. All right, that's it for now. Sorry for the long video today.